Greetings. Happy New Year to everyone on this broadcast. We would like to tell you that we are back in our Wounded Families 101. And just to remind you, because I know that was last year when we last met, um, we told you about how we're funded, how we're sponsored by the uh, City of Hagerstown uh, CDBG program, which is federally funded by the United States Housing and Urban Development. And anyone can come to this class. We will not turn anyone away, but we want to put emphasis on those who are um, of low income, moderate income, whatever you want to call it. We have a self certification form that you can fill out and help us uh, get the statistics together to submit to Housing and Urban Development so that we can continuously receive funds to bring this project to you, or this um, not I don't want to say project, but this support to you, and it is free of charge. Okay, this is Wounded Families 101, and we want to go back over some things because I realized that a lot has happened since we last met. It was the holiday season, and we enjoyed our families. Thank God for uh, bringing our families safely together. We had a beautiful Christmas, and by the time the new year came in, they were gone, but we still enjoyed our New Year's Day and how we crossed over into the new year. We always bring the new year in prayer. So I think that we'll get ready to face um, a new year that's going to be different from 2021. My prayers are that we strive, and not only strive, but work that much harder to do what we need to do in order to get things done. And as you see on our banner, I don't know if it's not posted yet, but I will bring it up. We do have a banner trickling across the page because two people have asked me, can I donate to your program? And I'm like, I'm not sure, but I did ask. And yes, we can take donations for those who want to see these programs continue, for those who need these classes. We can't do it alone, but we thank God for the support of the community as well as the different government agencies, the private agencies, whomever has been touched and who feels as though they want to help with our community development. You feel free to give, and our Cash App tag ID is will be on the screen as soon as I remove this um, information here. So going right into what we have already learned and talked about it, we're just going to go over some things. What is trauma? In general, we talked about how trauma can be defined as a psychological, emotional response to an event or an experience that is deeply distressing or disturbing. And when loosely applied, this trauma definition can refer to something upsetting, such as being involved in an accident. Been there, and I know that I've been in a few accidents and traveling with different ones, and the one that really injured me. And if it was up to man, I would be dead. But I thank God that I'm still here and alive. I might have some aches and pains, but it could have been worse. I could have been dead. I could have been paralyzed. But I thank God that I'm overcoming. Yes, it was traumatizing. It was something to go through, but I have made it thus far. Thank God I made it. Having an illness or an injury, losing a loved one, we talked about various things that traumatize us. Having an illness or injury, losing a loved one, or going through a divorce. Been there, done that. It can be traumatizing. However, it can also encompass the far extreme and include experiences that are severely damaging, such as rape or torture. Because events are viewed subjectively, this broad trauma definition is more of a guideline, and everyone processes a traumatic event differently because we all face them through the lens of prior experiences in our lives. And we're going to give some examples here. One person might be upset and fearful after going through a hurricane. There's been many that went through the terrible hurricane that took place in 7 different states. But someone else might have lost family and barely escaped from a flooded home during Hurricane Katrina or the hurricane that just recently happened. In this case, a minor category, one hurricane may bring up traumatic flashbacks, other terrifying experiences. I'm reminded when I was in a serious accident on I-10 in Florida. When I lived in Florida, I had flashbacks for a long time. I had dreams for a long time. And even if I was traveling in a vehicle with my parents or friends or whatever, and I would see trucks with bales of hay, it just seemed like I was going through the experience all over again. So I had to heal from that in order to uh, become who I am today. Because trauma reactions fall across a wide spectrum, psychologists have developed categories as a way to differentiate between types of trauma. Among them are complex trauma, post traumatic stress disorder, as we talked about in our last class, and developmental trauma disorder. We have to believe we talked about complex trauma happens repetitively. It often results in direct harm to the individual. The effects of complex trauma are cumulative. The traumatic experience frequently transpires within a particular time frame or within a specific relationship and often in a specific setting. Uh, PTSD can develop after a person has been exposed to a terrifying event or has been through an ordeal in which intense physical harm occurs or was threatened. Sufferers of this PTSD have persistent and frightening thoughts and memories of their ordeal. So you may not have been aware before, but check yourself. And if you experience some of these things that we're talking about, I admonish you to go seek a therapist, go seek a psychologist, go seek someone that can help you and properly diagnose you. Developmental trauma disorder is a recent term in the study of psychology, and this disorder formed during a child's first 3 years of life, the result of abuse, neglect, and abandonment. Developmental trauma interferes with the infant or child's neurological, cognitive, and psychological development. It disrupts the victim's ability to attach to an adult caregiver. So many times, people who become parents are not really what you call true parents. They just conceived or they made a baby. However, sometimes they have to go through parenting classes because they have abused or neglect or abandoned a child. So we're going to move right on. And an adult who inflicts developmental trauma usually doesn't do it intentionally. Rather, it happens because they are not aware of the social and emotional needs of children. And that's why it's very necessary that these adults who lack education, who doesn't know how to uh, care for a child or not even neglect them or abandon them, then they have to be taught what they must do. Some of the symptoms that you may see when someone has trauma, often shock and denials are typical reactions to a traumatic event. Over time, these emotional responses may fade, but a survivor may also experience reactions long term, and this can include anger. And that's why we have brought even our anger management class on board in our program. And because usually we see that there's different types of disorders or behaviors that comes along with alcohol, substance abuse, uh, wounded families from a child on up to the adult, and anger. Persistent feelings of sadness and despair, flashbacks, unpredictable emotions, physical symptoms such as nausea and headaches, intense feelings of guilt as if they are somehow responsible for the event. I can't say that always that someone is responsible for what took place. An altered sense of shame, feeling of isolation and hopelessness. These are not normal for people who have been abused or neglected or any other type of trauma. Trauma therapy is not one size fits all. It must be adapted to address different symptoms. Mental health professionals who are specially trained in treating trauma can assess the survivor's unique needs and plan treatment specifically for them. That's why I said in the beginning that you must seek out professional help so that you can be properly assessed and find out what has traumatized you and what has it caused. Currently, there are several trauma therapy modalities in place. Cognitive behavior therapy, CBT, teaches the person becomes more aware of their thoughts and beliefs about their trauma and gives them skills to help them react to emotional triggers in a healthier way. And this is our goal so that we can all uh, help each other to react to emotional triggers in a healthier way than we have in the past. Exposure therapy, also called in vivo exposure therapy, is a form of cognitive behavior therapy that use that is used to reduce the fear associated with the emotional triggers caused by the trauma. You have talk therapy, psychodynamic. Psychotherapy is a method of verbal communication that is used to help a person find relief from emotional pain and strengthen the adaptive ways of problem management that the individual already possesses. These modalities treat the memory portion, the unconscious of the trauma. However, we now know that a survivor's conscious brain must be treated as well. Recent studies have found that body oriented approaches such as mindfulness, yoga, and EMDR are powerful tools for helping the mind and body reconnect. Additionally, neurofeedback is a type of biofeedback that focuses on brain waves. Also, it shows promise in helping patients with trauma symptoms learn to change their brainwave activity to help them become calmer and better able to engage with others. Healing from trauma. It is possible to heal from emotional and psychological trauma. We know that the brain changes in response to a traumatic experience. However, by working with a mental health professional who specializes in trauma, you can leave your trauma behind and learn to feel safe again. And that's our goal. We want everyone to forget about those things that happened in the past and begin to feel safe and begin to be healthier again or healthy. Compassionate trauma therapy. The clinicians at the Center for Anxiety and Mood Disorders Trauma Institute provides compassionate care through specialized training in trauma therapy. For more information, contact us or call us today at 561-496-1094. And post traumatic stress disorder, trauma, Boca Ration, Broward County, complex PTSD, complex trauma, Delray Beach, developmental trauma disorder and mood disorder, Palm Beach. I don't believe that you have to go all the way to Florida to get help, but there are some local agencies that will help you with your PTSD. So now we're going to move right on to back to our wounded families. And we had some definitions that we went through, and I believe that we got all the way up to when we were talking about the conscious and the subconscious. Conscious. Um, I didn't mean to do that. I think I'm gonna have to. I hope I didn't erase what I had. Hmm. Wounded families. We had some things that we wanted to discuss tonight, and we was going to pick up where we left off, and we still can. But I had it in a PowerPoint that I made earlier, and see. It's kind of hard right now to get people to ask questions, but we hear it at the end of the class. We will see if anyone has any questions. And like I said, you can even send me an email at pastorparson57 at gmail. And anything you need to know, I can try my best to answer what you need to have answered. Okay, I believe that this is where I want to pick up. Protective factors. We talked about behaviors, characteristics, and qualities inherent in some personalities that sorry, that's a typo there, will assist in recovering after exposure to a traumatic event, and these are called protective factors. Environment. This is a reliable support system with friends and family and any other person that you have as a support system. Access to safe and stable housing. It's important that we have a great environment, a healthy environment, so that we can be, be in a safe and stable environment. Timely and appropriate care for first responders and behaviors. Good self care, such as sleeping at least 8 hours a night. I know many times people tell me that are going through different things, whether it be emotionally, physically, spiritually, whatever, they don't get much sleep. Eating nutritious food, they don't have it for whatever reasons. Now, I used to understand why a lot of people didn't, but since COVID, there's been more availability for those who need food, and people are giving more than in the past. So I don't believe that nobody has to be hungry because there are places where they give out food. People bring food to your home. They have uh, people giving to the elderly, and you'd be amazed of who's given out because their hearts have been touched. Exercise is a good behavior that we all need to participate in order to make us a healthy individual. Practicing good boundaries. We can't overstep our boundaries. We can't overeat. We can't uh, overindulge in anything. Using positive coping mechanisms versus negative coping mechanisms. So we got to remain, and if we're not already, we have to start being using positive coping mechanisms. Excuse me. Resiliency as a trait, a vigorous approach to life, a sense of meaningfulness, an internal locus of control versus external. A way to conceptualize this is the ability of a person to bounce back from challenges through feelings of control, commitment, and the ability to see change as a challenge. Post-traumatic growth. Resilient survivors continue, therefore, to grow and even thrive in spite of, and quite often because of, their history. So if you stop and consider your history, um, and it says here, resilient survivors continue, therefore, to grow and even thrive in spite of. It doesn't matter what kind of history you've had, that you can thrive because of your history. Survivors of trauma who strengthen their abilities and find wisdom that allow them emotional growth in relationship with others are often referred to as experiencing post-traumatic growth. Let me repeat that again. Survivors who have been traumatized, who strengthen their abilities and find wisdom that allow them emotional growth in relationship with others are often referred to as experiencing post-traumatic growth. That's where I want to be, and show that I have um, allowed emotional growth. Okay. Post-traumatic growth is reflected in the following: strengthening relationship, sense of connection. Couldn't always do this, but yes, you can be strengthened in a relationship, sense of connection, or increased sense of personal strength, awareness of increased possibilities in life. Education is powerful, but if we don't reach out and grab it and listen and apply it, then we can't see the changes. Now, tonight, I wanted to talk about the seven wounds, and I don't want to go past 9 o'clock because we are not permitted to do so. There are seven wounds that I wanted to talk about. We may get to them all, and we may not. But I believe that everyone who is listening can relate to the seven wounds that we're going to talk about tonight. The first one that we want to address is physical wounds, and they are most visible. A scar or physical impairment can be a constant reminder of an affliction due to genetics, disease, accidents, or abuse. Physical wounds are painful by themselves. However, more often than not, they are combined with one of the other wounds, which only intensifies the hurt. Sexual. Our sexuality is one of the most personal and vulnerable aspects of who we are. When anyone takes advantage of this part of us, deep wounds result that may affect how we see ourselves, others, and life in general. Sexual boundaries protect us, but when they are broken, whether by force, fear, or manipulation, we can feel shattered or just blown to pieces. The third one we're going to talk about is choices. We all have a freedom of choice. Oftentimes we make selfish, foolish, impulsive, and poorly considered choices that leave painful marks. If we could only go back and choose differently, we would so in a moment. But here we sit in our brokenness with no one to blame but ourselves, which only makes the pain worse. Sometimes I think about if I would have, could have, should have, what would have happened. So I can't dwell on it though, because I just said we have to forget those things which are behind, and we pick up and we move forward. Okay, the next one is going to be verbal. Words can be as painful, and I can't interject this enough because oftentimes people don't care what they say. They don't care how painful it is because they say, I didn't hit you, I didn't cut you, didn't kill you. But words can be as painful as many physical wounds, sometimes even more so. When barbs are hurled intentionally or unintentionally by those we respect, trust, or lean on, the hurt can pierce us to the core. Words of discouragement, rejection, or ridicule can easily squash us, stealing our confidence and dreams. And that's deep. A lot of times people don't realize it can do this much damage. But if we stop, think about it, and ask yourself, did I mean to do that much damage to these individuals or to the individual? Social is the next one. We all want to be liked. So when we feel ignored, embarrassed, excluded, marginalized, used, or attacked by others, the wound is real. Yet we oftentimes tell ourselves we are being immature or oversensitive, and we shouldn't hurt. We believe we should be able to ignore our wounds, which can't, because wounds are painful. Wounds even show, like I think I mentioned in the first class, if the bleeding doesn't stop, then the wounds cannot heal. Because usually, if there's bleeding, the sore is open. Sometimes it's polluted with infection. So it has to be cleansed, it has to be washed. And I ask everyone the first night to take your band aid off. And I'm asking again tonight, take the band aid off so that you can properly heal. But this really does nothing to erase the pain. How people treat us affects us often profoundly, whether we wish to admit it or not. Let's take the band aids off. Let's clean up the wound. Let's stop the bleeding so that we can heal. Spiritual. When we feel hurt by a church, a fellow believer, the clergy, or God Himself, the wound can lead to a devastating spiritual loneliness and depression. Oftentimes we see people of the church, yes, become lonely and depressed because of some type of wound that they receive by a pastor, a layman, or perhaps God Himself, as we first stated. We feel that if God or His people wound us, He must be against us or not care about us. Who can stand against God? At this point, our wounds feel like a curse with no remedy and no hope of healing. I haven't gotten that far to where I felt like I had to blame God. I question God and I get answers. And when He speaks back to me and tell me it's what it is and what I need to do, then I follow His words. I listen to His instructions and I take heed. So that is an area that we can be wounded in spiritually. But oftentimes man doesn't want us to talk about that. And it's hard not to, because we know that we are made up of body, soul, and spirit. And you can't heal one area and not the complete body. Emotional. Each of the above wounds carries with it an emotional component. Sometimes the original wound is so buried beneath the feelings that we can't even find it. All we're aware of is the deep, overwhelming ache and the emotions that accompany it. The emotions confuse our thinking, cloud our judgment, and too frequently block our awareness that God is beside us. I heard a song one day that said, "Never alone." So since I'm never alone, then I have help. I have somebody that cares about me. And because God has instilled in people like me, that's why I can't take all this credit by myself, but there's more than I who are willing to help you get through this. We're here to share with you and to cause you to be aware of what actually you need to do and what caused your trauma and what the trauma did to you and what you need to do. We have stated here that you need to take the band-aid off. And if you want to write these things down, you can. And I advise you to do some research on trauma. Come back with some questions. And if you don't want to ask them here online, like I said, you can email me at pastorparson57, because sometimes if you suppress things in your life, it's just going to make the matter worse. So I wanted to admonish you tonight to take the band-aid off and find out why your wound is not healing, or your wounds, because you may have more than one wound. Clean it. Remove all the pollution out of the wound. Stop the bleeding. Let it get some air. Let it start healing. And I know that sometimes some of us heal quickly and some of us don't. And I believe that you will heal. If you want to heal, you can heal and you will heal. But you must listen, and not only listen, but Follow the instructions that has been given to you tonight. If you find that you are suffering from PTSD or something else, go seek for help. Somebody that you feel comfortable in talking to and sharing with them and being strong enough to let it go, whatever it is, and begin your healing. One day I had to realize that you can't continuously suppress these things, else you're going to be in a way that you would not want to stay. And I saw so much coming up. I said, I don't want to be a dysfunctional person. So I took it upon myself because my life was impacted by trauma, so many different types of trauma. Been there, done that. And I truly believe that God allowed me to go through it so that I could do some research, go to school, and learn about all these different types of traumas and disorders and be a help to society. So I see it is about 8:39. We're getting done a little earlier than what I anticipated. So if anybody has any questions, I know that on Facebook in my profile that you can ask questions and it will show up on my screen and I can respond. But if you don't want to put them up here, you want to be private, as I stated often tonight, PastorParson57@gmail.com, and I will respond to you. It's been quite a busy day today, and it's cold, and I went out there because I had an obligation and was in pain, and I felt like I wanted to just go to bed, but I realized I have to come on and help somebody. So it's not about in the feeling, but it's what is going on at that moment that you have to go ahead and press, push, and get past it. And then once you go past the pain, then you say it was worth it all, because I believe that somebody heard something tonight that will bring about a change, that will start to bring awareness, that will start their research, that will start them to take off the bandage and clean up and stop the bleeding in their lives. I see there's still no questions. So we will be back on at 8 o'clock on next Monday night. I believe it's the 10th of January. I can't believe it. Woo! Already, we just came into the new year. But I thank God for being in a new year, because He has promised so many great things, and I'm going to be a part of it. And I just want to share with you. Come on, let's make this happen together. No matter what we hear, we will be all right, because God said better things are coming. So let's grab it. God bless you.